Hello everyone, and welcome back to Tutorials of Tone. My name is Alex. Thank you so much for watching this video. Today we're in the second of our trilogy on Piece of My Heart. We started with Janis Joplin and the infamous 59 Bassman tones that brought that tune to life. And today we're going to be talking about the Faith Hill studio version, the Fender Deluxe, and the infamous Matchless Chieftain, brought to life and notoriety by great players such as Brent Mason, who was on the original recording. Let's dive right in. First up, in our preset, we have our input block. Everything here is at stock settings, except the ratio of our gate is at 3:1 instead of 2:1. As there's no high gain or even mid gain tones in this preset, the threshold doesn't need to be so high. I'm using a Fender Tele throughout this entire tune, and I'm sticking to the middle position for everything except the solo, where I'll switch over to the bridge side. The first effect in our signal chain is our Studio FF compressor. Everything here is pretty stock. Our release time is down to 63.25 milliseconds. No auto makeup gain engaged, and 6.5 dB of level to make up for the compressed signal. We're running our compressor into the front of a Deluxe Reverb, the quintessential country tone of Nashville. We have our gain up at 6, our master volume is at noon. Our bass is rolled off just a hair, and our treble is up a bit with the bright switch engaged. Our presence is at 6. We have an 80 Hz low cut and 8500 Hz high cut on the amp block. Our amp is running into a pair of 1x12 Deluxe Reverb cab IRs with a 57 as the bulk of our tone, and then a 121 dialed in at negative 10 dB. We have an 80 Hz low cut and a 10K high cut on our cab. We're running our amp tone into a medium room reverb in parallel just to give it a little bit of extra breath. Everything here is at stock settings. Just a little bit of space, so the board and live recordings aren't so stark. We use the level control as our mix when we're running in parallel. Again, our rhythm tone sounds like this. Just a nice, smooth, even, clean tone for our Tele in the middle position. Now, the tone that we heard in the intro is actually sort of an approximation of what's going on in the studio recording. There's a lot of instruments playing that top motive, and it's important to recreate that live, whether you're in a big ensemble, a 3-piece, 4-piece, whatever the configuration. And with our Fractal tech, we have the technology to do so. We have a dual diatonic pitch type called up. We are in the key of E flat, though because we are playing in octaves, it's a little superfluous to call the key out. Our voice 1 is an octave up, with our level at 100% panned all the way to the right, and our voice 2 is an octave down, all the way up on our level, and panned all the way to the left. Keep note of this if you are running this in mono or only out your left or right channel on either your Axe FX3, FM9, or FM3. You're going to need to sum from stereo to mono and accurately represent these voices, or you can always change the panning to 0. The input gain of this block is set to 100%. Our mix is set to 37.5%, so we're still getting more of our dry, unprocessed signal than we are the affected signal, and just using that to bolster our tone. As this pitch block has a volume dip when it's engaged, we have a 3 dB boost to compensate for that. And the block has an 80 Hz low cut and a 10K high cut to get rid of any unwanted artifacts that may accrue when using this effect. In our master mod section, we have set the detector source to input 1 as opposed to block in. So instead of reading compressor, amp, cab, and then the pitch reading that, it is just reading the input of our guitar. It's very handy, especially for single note lines, to have immediacy out of our detector source. We have our pitch tracking set to fast as we are using single note lines only. If we were playing chords, it would be advantageous to switch to smooth. The tracking is at a neutral setting of 5 here. Now for our solo tone, we do switch amps. We switch over to the Matchless Chieftain for just a little bit of that edge of breakup, hot telly Nashville sound that Brent Mason is known for, especially on this recording. Our gain is at noon. We have our bass turned down just a hair, but the cut switch is engaged. We've scooped out quite a bit of mids, no bright switch or fat switch engaged on this, and we have a little bit of power amp depth to bring some low end back in. Our master volume is also at noon. We have a 100 Hz low cut and an 8500 Hz high cut on the amp block. We are running that into a pair of 2x12 matchless cab IRs with a 57 as the bulk of our tone, and almost as evenly a 421 mixed in at -2.5 dB. The cab block has an 80 Hz low cut and a 10K high cut attached. At the end of our chain, we also have our trusty 3 dB lead boost, which I use on every lead boost. If you end up needing unity gain for anything, you can always shunt or delete this, but it is very handy to just jump out in front of the mix and then come right back very subtle ways, so no sound man is diving for your fader and then never turning it back up. And that lead tone sounds like this. Just a nice edge of breakup, just punch that hot telly Brent Mason thing. It's a wonderful tone to try to chase. I've done my best to approximate that here. Well, that about wraps up this video, the second of our Piece of My Heart trilogy. We started with Janis Joplin and the infamous 59 Bassman, and we have just concluded the Faith Hill Studio version utilizing the Deluxe Reverb and the notorious Matchless Chieftain brought to life by none other than the great Brent Mason. If you enjoyed this video, there are plenty of other videos throughout the channel, such as tutorials of tone, Fractal 101s, gear reviews, playthroughs, etc. Stay tuned for our third and final entry in our Piece of My Heart trilogy with the Rockin' arrangement from Faith Hill, and I'm so selfishly excited about it. Stay tuned for that. Check it out in the description or at the end of this video, and we'll see you all next time.